Well, the Westmead Business Zone in Durban saw widespread looting during the unrest of 2021. Several warehouses and businesses were ripped apart and set alight. Newzroom Afrika's Karinda Jagmohan is tracking that leg of the story and joins us now live. And Karinda, it's hard to believe, isn't it, that you and I were live on air during those 9 days in July of 2021, ourselves recounting with horror what was unfolding in parts of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. How did the unrest unfold, specifically where you are today?
Certainly, Michelle, this was one of the areas we were standing on top of a hill watching businesses being looted, set on fire. This Westmead Business Zone is where we see a number of warehouses, medium to small enterprises as well. Some of your larger known names and some local businesses all were impacted in the very same way. But out of this, 3 years later, we see that there's management around how security needs to be performed here, but also how to upgrade the area too. So the Greater Westmead Association was formed in the aftermath of the unrest to look at the issues around the circumstances. I'm joined by Delane Gray as well as Jan Murray, who are representatives. I'll start with you, Mr. Gray. Thank you for your time. Let's look back 3 years ago, seeing the horrors that unfolded, something no one knew would happen. What do you remember from that time, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. The mess that we found, and it wasn't only an hour or two, it was for days. It was unbelievable. But what it did do as well is it realized that there was a need for engagement at every level. And during that time, I, together with others, we conducted tons of interviews, tons of meetings with all stakeholders and parties, from councillors, from the Nkosi, taxi owners associations, businesses, and the city as well as Metro Police and SAP. What that did do is it created a platform of engagement. All of a sudden, people that would normally not be talking with each other had a common interest to talk to each other. And that was the starting point of good communication. Good communication resulted in planning and dreaming, and planning and dreaming turned into action. And that action didn't happen immediately. It's taken most probably the better part of 2 years, and we've had 1 year of formalized engagement thereafter as the Greater Westmead Association, which Jan will talk to you about. But we've managed to overcome. We've seen resilience, we've seen community engagement at a level we haven't seen before, and there's been clear messaging that it will never happen again. Not in this precinct, because we firstly weren't going to do improvement. Our first objection was just to make sure there's no further regression. So that was the first part of our plan. How do we secure what we already have? How do we make it better? That will follow. And it's worked great. And it's come at a price, unfortunately. We also have seen a much securer, happier, cleaner environment, and that translates to our staff as well, and visitors.
So in terms of that, I just want to bring in Mr. Murray about the security aspect. You've had to change the way you work. So can you briefly tell me about what's changed and something maybe others can take a leap out of?
Yeah, thank you, Karinda. So what's crucial for us is to unite businesses together. So we've got 330 businesses coming together under the Greater Westmead banner, uniting their heads of security and their security staff on site with our precinct security. That's crucial because it's no point in us not having precinct security in place first. So we have a first line of defense, and we work hand in hand with our on-site staff. With high-tech security. So we've got AMPR cameras, CCTV, thermal cameras, drones flying in the sky, making sure that businesses can operate in a secure space while we then work on the sustainability and the resilience of the entire precinct as a whole.
So you've had to get all of the security in following what we saw 3 years ago. But sir, about accountability, do you feel there's been accountability for the destruction that we saw here?
Regrettably, to answer open and honestly, I don't think there's been accountability at the highest of levels. What has happened is there's been response from operational business, because we have too much to lose not to respond and get back on track. So a lot of what has been done from the private sector in an attempt to get their business back on track. But at a highest of level, at government and other sectors, without pointing fingers, there hasn't been accountability. There hasn't been a revisit to the precinct and say, hey, where are you guys at? What do you need? How have you recovered? So it's been a self-driven program. And that's why I said earlier on, it's us taking our own ground together with the communities that surround us and working with the interdependencies that exist between ourselves, staff, and a lot of private security as well. So hence my statement, it's come at a price. Yeah. Okay, but we have too much to lose to ever allow it to happen again. So it will not. We can attest to the fact that we've got plans and strategies in place that won't ever happen. And that gives us the security for staff, it gives us security for our supply chain, our customers, visitors to the precinct. I think we weren't recognized as an economic hub sufficiently, and still today aren't. And hence I'm saying there's not fair accountability. There's more conversation that has to take place.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Gray, Mr. Murray. And I just want to show our viewers the South African flag here. Of course, at this point, the Westmead Business Zone, it's an area where there are a number of warehouses, again, medium businesses, the big brand names, all of their distribution houses, it's here. And so what the Greater Westmead Association has done in the aftermath is ramp up security. They say that unrest, it will never happen again. But they also say there needs to be accountability. 3 years later, a handful of convictions, a promise from the president 3 years ago of utmost accountability. Where is it? Questions that I'm seeing being queried, not just from the gentleman here, but also back in Pietermaritzburg. Many people on the ground querying, well, has this all washed away? Perhaps. I'll keep you updated. In the next hour, I'll take you back to that bridge where we stood. We watched this area being destroyed, essentially. And we actually spoke to a looter. We even had a message at that point for the president. Back to you.
Vividly that exact scene that you're describing. Karinda Jagmohan, thanks very much indeed for that update. She's live to us there from the Westmead Business Zone in Durban.